Hey, this is Winston Zeddemore, CEO of Zeddemore Industries and member of the original Ghostbuster team. You're listening to Why We Bust, brought to you by the Windy City Ghostbusters and Memoriam Development. We're talking about members in the community and giving back. So suit up, shut your traps, dial in your PKE, and keep busting because it still feels good. And before you ask, no, I did not catch the number of that ghost train. Sorry, I missed it.
All right, welcome everyone. Hello, the Windy City Ghostbusters are excited to present the preeminent show focused on the charitable side of ghostbusting. We're here to meet all the incredible people from all over the world that dress like khaki covered exterminators, lugging around 30-pound light up backpacks, all in the name of putting smiles on faces and helping people. We'll find out what makes them tick and hear their take on exactly why they bust. I am your host, Patrick Calvert, and I'm flying solo today. Sometimes we've got James Norman, our producer, on here. Sometimes Matt is my co-host is here, but I'm flying solo, and I think I can't imagine I would be in better company than with today's guest from Report All Ghosts. Jamie Hodges is with us today. Jamie, welcome to the show.
I'm excited to be here. Thanks for having me back.
I'm excited. First of all,
I've never
how,
formally been here, by the way.
I
I've
think we've
wanted
had.
to. I'm
Well,
a big
we had a
fan.
rule. We weren't going to risk our first season having you out here. We know that there's just an inherent danger to having you on, and we didn't want to get canceled or anything right out front. So
Well, I've already. The thing is, I've always been in the shadows. I'm really more of an Easter egg that was teased for season two. So if anyone wants to do like a deep dive video on that, you're gonna have to go back and rewatch all of Why We Bust.
that's and I, you know what? I wouldn't wish that upon anyone, but it has been something a long time in the making. And real quick before we get too far in, I do want to remind everybody listening to go ahead, like and subscribe on whichever platform you're enjoying the show right now, and leave a wonderful positive review. And if it's a negative review, I you know I'd be curious to read it, but try and keep them positive. And I really just want to also say real quick, Jamie, I can't help. Is this the first time you've had a setup with the Ecto
Yeah,
going behind you?
so I've teased it a little bit on social media. I'm between studios right now.
Uh-huh.
I'm actually in the process of renovating a brand new office slash film studio
Oh,
space.
really? Very
And
cool.
yeah, that's the new HasLab Ecto behind me. But life has been so crazy, and you've seen no video content on this because while it looks really cool in the background, I've done absolutely nothing to put it together.
Yeah.
I
I
took it out of the box. I said, "Wow, that's big," and then it sat on a table, since January.
I will say so. Man, I have wanted a scaled ecto like that for so long,
Oh,
and a
right.
detailed ecto like that since I was a kid. I when Kenner brought their ectos out in the 80s, and I got mine. I was born in 83, so I was kind of prime real Ghostbusters age when that all came out.
Hmm.
And none of my I would never be able to resell the Ecto. I think I have a couple. I think I have the original and the Ecto 1A, but I would break apart radios or electronics that would, that would break, and I'd unscrew them and I'd pull out all the little resistors and gizmos on the inside and start
And
gluing
try
them
and
to the
stuff
top
them
of
in there. Yeah.
just try and use that, just hodgepodge whatever I could to try and make it look a little bit more like all the crazy stuff on the movie version. So having that out, I was so disappointed at the fact that I had to be an adult and realize that I have absolutely no shelf space to display
Oh, right. No, I'm gonna have to
an ecto of that
rearrange
size.
the entire situation. That is a
It's,
project in of itself.
I was thinking I can just get rid of some of these books, but they're not all mine, and it's not a
Oh,
decision that only I get to make. And I still, you know, my wife was very supportive and didn't roll her eyes too much at my excitement when the HasLab Proton Pack came out.
The 84 one or
The original the one that came out a few years ago, the
Phoebe
Spengler pack, the Phoebe
Okay.
pack.
Yeah.
And the idea of where we were going to put such a thing never crossed her mind until it actually got here, and I sat it on the dining room table, and it just was so massive. And
that's a problem for future Patrick.
Yeah, that's right. Well, it was one that no questions were going to be asked, but with that Ecto, the questions were asked, and I had to be realistic that if I did get it, it would be put in a box and brought to a storage unit until I win the lottery and get a new house that can fit all of my all of my stuff. They used to have a space.
Is this the long way of saying that you didn't get it? Is that what you're telling me?
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I should have led with that.
Probably.
I didn't get it. Darn it.
Oh man.
You see,
I've got a bad case of FOMO when it comes to that kind of stuff.
I do too.
I did the same thing with the Phoebe pack because you brought it up. I said I have proton packs. I've got 3 proton packs that I haven't even started on top of the one that I rock like normally.
Right.
And then it came and went, and I was like, man, I kind of want a Phoebe pack.
I know.
Lucky enough, I was able to come into possession of one. But that being said, now there's the 1984 pack, and I'm like, I don't need another.
I didn't get that one either.
I haven't either. But every time someone posts something like, "Hey, it's back on sale," I'm like,
I know.
Should I?
Is it back? Did it come back on sale? Did I miss that?
Well, so what Hasbro had said in either, I think it was actually during the recent holiday telethon for Yes Have Some, they had Emily on, and she had explained it that basically things are going to come in and out of stock. And so occasionally it's one of those things where like if you really want one, yeah, you just got to be paying attention. It's completely random, but like people are still buying them. So there is time to have some FOMO. Plus it was just announced that they're pushing it back from March to May. Yeah. So that window just became longer.
A little bit longer.
You've got time to get rid of more books.
Or kids. That's
right.
That's where everything used to go, and those became bedrooms.
It's like who is it? Marie Kondo. You have to ask yourself, does this spark joy?
It's just they're the trade-offs. It's the bad thing about me having to become an adult, unfortunately. But I had that same thing with that 84 pack because I'm perfectly fine with mine. But then I started to go, well, I think they probably tweak those electronics a little bit better.
Oh,
it's
absolutely.
Not going to be as fragile. We don't have to deal with those mods just to keep it running. And I was like, oh. And then there's the fear. We do a lot of parades with the Windy City Ghostbusters, and when the weather isn't great at some of those, it's, do I leave this in the car? Do I bring this out?
Because and that's another thing. They say constantly when they make these things, while for legal reasons they can't tell you to mod it.
Yeah.
they did bring, or they do certain things with cosplayers in mind. But that being said, I have never once taken like if it's even a light drizzle, I'm like, nope, you're staying in the house. Because I've got, again, several other proton packs. The main one I've had probably since like 2004, and that one I call the veteran because it's literally survived in the backseat of a car, like a really bad car crash.
Oh, really?
Yeah, but it's still going this many years later. So that one can take a light drizzle.
Right. That's I've thought about it because it was, well, maybe I just grab one of those life-size spirits and use that as the backup.
The funny thing is I see that kind of stuff and I laugh at it, but then you see it in person and that makes all the world of difference. I've seen so many people in my franchise do so many cool things, and the limit to how cool your Ghostbusters gear is always just what you want to put into it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's one of the cool things about these collectibles that exist is there's no longer like it used to be incredibly expensive to build a proton pack. Like not far off when you do the math, you could still go that route today, but if you do the math, it's something no shorter than like a car, like a new car payment, a down payment on a car.
Right. No, you're right. And yeah, because if you want, let's say you build a max factory pack.
Mhm,
What is that?
exactly.
That's minimum $5,000.
And that's okay. That's a route you can take. But I guess that's my point is there's no longer that like high shelf. You can
Yes,
enter at any level of ghost busting that you want to enter at
right.
and still have an amazing time. And probably if to the layman, you're going to look just as cool standing next to the rest of your
Absolutely.
team. No,
And that's a thing. And I will say this. I mean, as much as I know that, and you're probably one of the people that, like me, you're trying to see the shape of the logo on the resistor on the ion arm, just and it just let me just see quite what's there. But at the same time, when folks show up with, the HasLab or a spirit pack, it takes me a second when I look at it. I got to check the bumper. Okay, is that bumper? But
right.
that's me with as many hours as I've spent staring at
Mhm.
pictures of the screen used ones. If anyone that isn't me or you, is going to a parade or anything like that, they're not noticing
They don't care.
anything like that. And that's what got me in was the HasLab, because I do not have the basement space or anything to just
Mhm.
set up what is needed to do
To
justice to
like
building
work
a
on
real
something like that.
proton pack.
Right.
Yeah, I've
Mhm.
done a trap, like a Benekent kit with
Mhm.
the trap and the Charles Worth Dynamics, 3D printed trap like that. I can do
Right.
belt gizmo. That's those are things that can fit in a box when you're done and tuck them away. But the
Mhm.
proton pack, you need the space, and I did mention that to somebody at Ghost Corps when I was talking to them last year. It was, you know, they were talking about the charity work that everybody's doing, how great it is. I said, well, just so you
Mhm.
know, when you guys, allow for the licensing on those prop replicas, it boosts the people that are joining up and making it possible to raise money, because I'm one of
Oh,
them.
right. It's absolutely it's more accessible, I think, than even and again, I don't know how long you've been doing it, but I've been doing it a long time.
Not as long as you. This is
And
my third year.
yeah, in the infancy of the internet, before you even really had social media, the way you linked up with other Ghostbusters fans is either by complete chance or there is like there, I assume it still exists. I haven't looked in a while, but there was the regional section on the GB fans message board, and
Hmm.
occasionally people would like arrange meetups and stuff.
It's
So
still
yeah,
there. There's not a
it's
ton of activity, but
I'm sure, yeah.
I looked at that. But so you could probably go back to the first proton pack plans that I printed out were was it Norm Gagnon
Yes,
uh,
absolutely.
plans, and that involved,
Hmm.
like cake pans that you modify. And
A Pringles can still doesn't make a bad infilter.
yeah, right. And again, who's going to notice, um, other than, a few people? But I had those plans printed out, and it was just a matter of, you know, can I get my parents to take me on enough trips to Home Depot to try and build it? And I never quite got the thing started, but it was there,
Oh,
and it's
I had one in walking distance. I remember the very first proton pack I ever made was completely out of wood, which was an absolute mistake. I wore it out very randomly to
hmm
like some street festival or something we had
yeah,
like here in town. I didn't know what a Comic Con was. I didn't have any other like Ghostbuster friends. I'm like, you know what? I just want to show off my gear. I'm going to be the
right.
biggest nerd on the street today. I think I wore it for all of like 20 minutes and I literally threw it in a nearby trash can. I said, nope, I'm done with this.
Right. Yeah. Well, the weight, I imagine, if you were like me, is especially if you in Ghostbusters 2. I mean, you heard the story of Bill Murray just in general, how he feels about the proton packs, but then
Oh,
with him
yeah.
throwing that on and stumbling around the courtroom. So if you
Mhm.
don't put that on and it pains you the moment you put it on, you probably are thinking, this isn't too bad.
Are you
But
even wearing a proton pack? You know,
yeah,
if you're not in a little bit of pain, if you don't
right.
feel a light tingle in some part of your body, you're not wearing a proton pack.
I think that is the overwhelming feeling at the end of the day. Yeah, I always say the first 90 minutes are great when I'm doing an event. Then after that, that's when I start to feel it. And I don't know if it would feel different if I were younger. As I got into this, I think I was 40 when I started.
The
But
older I
it was,
get, that's pretty much the feeling I have about any social gathering. I'm good for about
yeah.
90 minutes. And then I very audibly say, okay, I'm done here, and I
Yeah.
leave.
I don't think I can do any more good here, so I appreciate the
Right.
invite.
I've done my
It-
part.
well, I think I've had to have that conversation with my friends where it's like, at least give me the courtesy of turning you down before you just assume I'm not going to show up.
Right.
But so we kind of dove right in here, Jamie. But you have alluded to it, or not even alluded to it. You've talked about just how long you've been doing this. But why don't we go back a little bit? Um,
To the
where does
beginning.
Ghostbusters start with you?
It was 1989. They were going all in at Hardee's. No, that's actually kind of the wild thing. So, I mean, you had mentioned that you were born in 83,
83
83, right?
on June 8th. So
So
Ghostbusters Day is
you,
my birthday,
wow,
which is why I never attend any Ghostbusters Day events, because there's usually
you've got better
something
things
going
to do. Are
on
you
that I
telling me you got
can't
something
bow
better to
out of.
do? That I don't know
Yeah.
if that's an excuse, Patrick. I expect to see you there next year. You have your birthday. All your friends are already in New York.
That's
So
true.
what
That's
else could you
true.
possibly be doing?
I just have to misbehave enough where my wife will want me out of the house, as
Just leave.
just get out and please give us a
Okay.
few days. Yeah.
So yeah, you've got 6 years on. No, right. Wait. Yeah, 6 years on. I was born in 1989,
Okay.
and that it perplexes me sometimes how I would have latched onto it as hard
You
as I
came in the
did.
void.
Right. Well, I mean, I
You
would have
came of
come
age in
out.
the void.
I would have came out in, or I would have came out. I entered this world
And
at the
with
time where
two.
like, well, like Ghostbusters 2 would have been at its hype. So of course there would have been a lot of marketing and stuff. But I'm a literal infant. There's no like, I'm
You're
not
not
soaking any of
right.
that stuff in.
Or
Um,
were you?
well, but the thing is, so like back then, movies took a lot longer to come out on VHS. I
Mm-hmm.
remember like clocking it when I was a kid. If there was a movie I really wanted to see and it just came out in theaters, it might be like 2 years before I see it on
Right.
VHS. So I have to assume my parents decided like, hey, we really want to check out this Ghostbusters 2 thing because there is footage of me at 2 years old wearing a Kenner Proton Pack and very like on key reciting every line there is to be said in the courtroom
Oh, wow.
battle scene of Ghostbusters 2. My parents got me hooked on phonics and it worked for me because obviously like at a very young age I started soaking it up. And again, like I guess it's hard to believe that some of this Ghostbusters stuff would have been more readily available back then because some of those toys even that I remember having growing up from the Kenner line
Hmm.
came out several years before I was even in the world, but
Right.
somehow I
You
remember,
acquired them.
I mean, there was definitely a good handful of things that I didn't have, like what do they call it? The Ecto Charger, but it was the slime blower from
Yeah,
Ghostbusters
I
2.
didn't have that
A
one.
lot of people didn't have that one. And then there was even like a ghost sniffer, like the one Peter
Hmm.
uses. But I had a lot of the other like oddball stuff. So my parents absolutely went out of their way to like fuel that into my life. And that was sort of my fandom. I think everyone sort of like has their thing. My dad's
Hmm.
really, I mean, there's of course many more options now
Right.
for people out there. But a lot of it when we were growing up depended on what was fed to us by our parents or what was on like Saturday morning cartoons,
Hmm.
and that was Transformers, Ninja Turtles, Ghostbusters,
Hmm.
um, and so that was my thing pretty much for life to a point where. And you bring up the proton pack plans. I remember going to middle school, and it was like the first day I had a binder with all of those Paranorman like plans in it.
Yeah.
And I had people on the bus making fun of me, like, look at this guy over here. He thinks he's gonna build a proton pack. Little Jimmy over here.
That is something that, and I feel like it's faded a little bit and in a great way. But
Right,
if you were
absolutely.
passionate about anything that was not
Mhm.
exactly mainstream, it was a source of ridicule. And I born in 83, so Star Wars toys and things started to
Mhm.
fade out by the time I
Right.
was 5, 6, you know, in
Mhm.
Ghostbusters. So Star Wars and Ghostbusters were an interest at the same time, but I couldn't find Star Wars toys, but nobody else was into Star Wars. So it was just my mom. I remember getting, you know, Star Wars, you know, birthday stuff, and
Mhm.
it's like, Mom, no, I don't want anybody knowing knowing that I
It's
like
a
this
it's a
stuff here,
secret.
and right, and I think it's a little bit more accepted now to have a little
Well,
bit of a geek uh, interest.
well, because being a nerd is just like part of pop culture, right?
Yeah,
Like that kind of
yeah,
stuff, like you said, is much more mainstream. A lot of the things, even on streaming, a lot of TV shows and stuff that are out right now is the kind of stuff that comes like right out of nerd culture, and
right,
you've got a more general audience like reaching that sort of thing.
right.
Um, Even something as like what would have been underground when it came out, but is much bigger now, is something like Dungeons and Dragons.
Hmm.
The same thing can
Right.
absolutely be said about Ghostbusters because, I mean, while I think the community as a whole has existed in individual parts since 1983, because there were
Hmm.
people making Ghostbusters costumes,
Sure.
back then, as soon as that movie came out. But then, again, like any other community, as time went on and things became more accessible, now we are this insane entity that we are now. That's evolved to a point where we're doing some of this charity work and stuff that you've
Yeah.
mentioned, which is something that I don't think anyone would have even considered back in 1983. And some communities don't do now. Not to put them down, I'm just saying that's one of the things that I think makes Ghostbusters like unique.
I agree. I agree. And and especially when so much of it was happening, not that people weren't connected, because there had been great hubs to keep the
Mm,
community connected online, but at the same time, they're just, and this is part of sort of, you know, what this whole show that started from was, why is it seem to be a default within the Ghostbusters community that when we do get together and nerd out and put on our proton packs and flight suits, you know, we want to pair it with something, and we want to be
mm.
connected to the community, and we want to be putting smiles on people's faces, and that was, you know, what got me started too, was that proton pack sitting on the dining room table and my wife going, what are we going to do with this? And I had to think fast to make it sound good, and I said, you know, there is a charity group I know in the Chicago area, and I think I'm going to look them up, and this might be something I can actually, you know, make, you know, do some good with. And
So
then
this is like really relatively new to you.
for me, I knew things existed. I watched Ghost
Mhm.
Heads when that
Right.
came out, and you
Mhm.
know, everyone has their own opinion on that.
Right.
Um, but at the same time, it was there was I was as soon as GB fans came around, I was on that site, and you know,
Mhm.
Halloween time, a few different years, I was buying things from there to put together a costume at the end, but on the forums, and so I knew that this stuff existed. But you know, you've been in this a while, so how did you first kind of come about hearing that you could do some good with
Well,
the effort you've made?
things definitely evolved again because I've been doing it so long, like in these sequences. So in 1999, in the dawn of the internet, I became incredibly frustrated because Jeff Foxwell says because bustin' means doing good. Jeff Foxwell is the now president of our charity franchise, Ghostbusters Virginia. I dragged him into it at some point in time, and he's been doing some incredible work. And that's a phrase that we've kind of coined here in VA, is
Hmm.
that busting doesn't just feel good,
It
but it
does
means
good.
doing good. But yeah, in the ripe age of 19, let me back up a little bit. The In the year
The
1999,
year of our Lord.
right, in the dawn of the internet, there was a lot of Ghostbusters 3 rumors flying around,
Right.
right? Um, this is stuff you don't hear a lot about now, just because, I mean, we're in the age where what are we on now? How many Ghostbusters movies are there? I haven't seen them.
Six? Are we on six?
Six. I think we're on, like, hold on. So we got
If we include
one, two.
2016,
I mean, just in general, yeah, 2016. And then so we're on five.
5. Okay.
We're on. Ghostbusters 4 out of 5 movies, and we're talking, we're still waiting on Ghostbusters 5. That's insane. But
Yeah.
back in 1999, it had already been 10 years since we had a
Right.
Ghostbusters
And I remember in
movie.
96, 97 being told that there was a Chris Farley version
Right.
in the
And
works.
that kind of went on until 1999 because they were talking about like Will Smith and Chris Farley, and a lot of people think that Chris Farley's unfortunate and untimely passing was kind of the nail in the coffin for like that idea at the time. But
Mhm.
according to Dan Aykroyd, for like 10 to 20 years, Ghostbusters 3 is always starting to film in the spring uh, of 1999, 2003. But anyway, I got incredibly frustrated at 10 years old and started writing my own script for Ghostbusters 3. Now,
Mm.
I wouldn't end up making that script until 2009 with who is my best friend, someone I call my hetero life mate, Matt Adams. We went
Mhm.
to high school together, and I convinced him to make a feature-length Ghostbusters movie with me while we're only between the ages of 18 and 20
Yeah.
years old, which was relatively unheard of at the time because of course now we're in a digital age. We're an 8-year-old can make a decent film on their phone.
You're right.
you
Right.
know we had like JVC film like camcorders, and we're like
Mhm.
plugging it up with audio video cords and hooking that into our computer and being like, this is 360 frames and it looks fantastic.
Right.
But we did it, and it's not great, but I always like to say like that was an incredible learning experience because of course now I'm still doing some of that kind of stuff today. I took
Right.
that with me forever. But back to that fan film at that time, it was a big enough deal where we held a premiere at one of our local historic theaters and packed the house. But at that screening, we met a gentleman named Dan Harshman, which a lot of people have come to know and be familiar with in the community.
Mhm.
And he, unbeknownst to me, was only like 2 hours away in Virginia Beach, whereas we're in Richmond, Virginia. So we kind of actually got to meet each other for the first time, and he was doing this whole, I think he had like a free webs page or something called Ghostbusters Virginia, and every once in a while he dressed up with his fans, and he had a killer kit even then.
Mhm.
But outside of that, it wasn't really much of anything except for him trying. We were doing our thing up in Richmond, he was
Right.
doing his thing down there. But at some point in time, shortly after our movie came out, I moved out to California. But I didn't know anybody, but I still had the itch to do like Ghostbuster stuff. I'm coming
Yeah.
hot off the release of my movie, and I'm introduced. I guess it probably would have been either through social media because MySpace existed then,
Right.
or it
Who
might have
was in
been
your
through
top 8? Was it top 8 or
top 8. Yeah, Tom, of course, he's the number one because
always?
you didn't have a choice. But we're really aging ourselves. But at some point in time, I linked up with a group called the SoCal Ghostbusters out in
Mhm.
California. And at that time, I was sort of introduced to what a larger entity could do, like as a group of Ghostbusters and how they went out to events and stuff. I was very fortunate to meet Sean Bishop, which is definitely like an old head in the Ghostbusters
Mhm.
community. He had a spectacular ecto at one point in time. I think he sold it off, unfortunately. But they were going out to events and they were having fun, and I was seeing this sort of like social element of like people with this common interest coming together. And as a charity group, Ghostbusters hadn't really like crossed that line yet.
Mhm.
Like that in of itself is actually still I mean, you see so much of it, it doesn't feel that way. But the charity aspect is still a relatively new concept
Mhm.
because at that point I had come back to Virginia after living out there for about a year and a half, and I get with Dan, and I say, they're doing this out on the West Coast. We got to start like getting together. Let's do some
Right.
events and stuff. And I remember the very first one we ever did was just like a little free library convention where there's no intent. We just like set up a table and threw out a bunch of Ghostbusters props and maybe like
Mhm.
some coloring sheets or something and said, here we are. come, you know what I mean? Like for a long
Did you have a group
time.
name yet?
Yeah, I mean, I think we just kind of ran with Ghostbusters Virginia. We did
Okay.
this weird like division thing for a while because again, we were younger and lived 2 hours apart. So,
Right.
I mean, even in the time span in which I've known Dan, we've spent a lot of time together, but it's not like we get to see each other all the time.
Sure.
So were doing just a lot of events here in Richmond where I had kind of put my little group together. And again, he was doing his thing and we met up sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
But as time went on, more people started tacking on, and it became
Mm-hmm.
this sort of like snowball thing. We are like a military state in the sense that
Sure.
we have several bases here. So there's been a lot of members who come and go for whatever reason, because a lot of service people move around a lot, and that's
Right.
fine. But again, thanks to the positive side that is social media, people continue to find out about it, and we're doing events, so of course we encourage other people to come in because it's hard to miss a Ghostbuster.
Right.
You've done more than enough events now where I know people come over, and there are some people that are generally curious. A
Mm-hmm.
lot of times it'll be like someone our age who just wants to know like how the hell you built that thing that's on your back.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
What's that made out of?
Right. Or
Let me give that a tug.
you get the how much does that weigh and how much does that cost you?
Right.
That
Yeah.
and all that. Yeah.
But that's what draws them in. And then you
Right.
say, hey, we now, of course, at some point in the course of Ghostbusters fandom history, and I wish I knew who to credit. It doesn't matter at this point because we're all doing amazing things. But at
Can we
some
just say
point,
you? Let's say you.
no, not for what I'm about to say.
Well, let
But
me
at
put a new banner up here.
no. But at some point in time, someone in the community said, "Hey, let's use this thing to do something good."
Mm-hmm.
And there, of course, there's other large fandom groups that do that sort of thing, like the 501st, the
Sure.
Star Wars. If anyone's ever unfamiliar with what we do, I always say, like like the Star Wars guys.
Right. But slightly less anal.
Right. Well, but also it's because for a long time, until we had these two new movies come out, Ghostbusters was still somewhat niche,
Mm-hmm.
unless you were like into collectibles or something like that and keeping track of that sort of thing. So it was easier to relate it to that. But of course, it's become such an entity, and you see reports in the news all the time about people, doing good things in their community. And I'm
Mm-hmm.
constantly impressed with all the new ways we come up with to raise money. And
Mm-hmm.
then you got like Sony Pictures and Ghost Corps finally stepping in and saying, "Hey, let's do this Ghostbusters Give Back initiative."
Yeah.
And when you see all of these things, and of course I'm someone who's been to like Ghostbusters Day every single year since it's kicked off for like
I'm
the past.
jealous.
You're gonna get there. I'm gonna drag you there if I have to. But when you see these things, you realize like it's this positive snowball that just keeps rolling
Right.
and building. And having done this for as long as I have, seen it be just like a whisper of a couple of nerds and Ghostbusters adjacent costumes to what it's become today, I'm just really excited to see what it will continue to be. At some
Exactly.
point in time, I'm going to get too old to like wear a proton pack, and I want to be able to just sit back and watch the younger ones because we've got some pretty young people in
Yeah.
our group. Um, it's just interesting to see it continue to resonate.
Yeah.
And of course, even now, again, doing events, you meet a lot of young fans, people who like kids that were who we were
Mm-hmm.
however many years ago, and they say, can I be part of the team? And it's like, when you're 18 till you're 90. I keep trying to leave, they keep dragging me back in.
That's what happens to Bob Anderson
Right.
at Windy City.
And
Forever
that's
trying to retire.
I mean, kind of. So I'll say I have taken a little bit of a back seat because the older I get, the less I want to drive.
Yeah.
That's one thing about Ghostbusters Virginia is as a charity group, we are now over, hello, Terry. As a charity group, we are now over 100 members deep. Like
Wow.
it's hard for me to keep track of now, so I always just say over 100. I know it's
Yeah.
a relatively significant number, and we do events all the way from the tip of the state, which is up in Washington,
Mm-hmm.
D.C., down to the southern border, which is right on North Carolina, and I'm not going to go to all of them.
Right.
all every member of our group who is ambitious enough to do all of them or comes out locally, they all do incredible work. And it's impressive to watch, like having taken a little bit of a back seat
Hmm.
because I'm tired.
Right. No, and deservedly so. But and that's the beauty, and especially when you have a big team. Chicago's got a big team as well, and I think we're this year especially. I think we're seeing there's just that realization from some of the folks that have been doing this a long time that it's gonna be okay if I just decide that I'm going to give myself a breather every once in a while.
Right,
It's going to
absolutely.
keep moving forward. We have built a strong foundation here, and we're seeing that on our side. And there's a lot of young blood that's come around just the past several years that have ran for leadership positions that, in our group, and have a lot of fun ideas and energy and things that might have felt impossible several years ago. So everybody
Right.
just decides to, oh, it's just, we're not even going to bother going down that road. But you got some young ambition that's like, hey,
Well, and we
let
do
them do the heavy
too.
lifting.
We just had excuse me, we just had the elections in our group for this year. And we've got some really great people coming into new positions with some really cool ideas, putting teams together. And I'm excited to see what we do in the next year or so. Because it's been a
Yeah.
second since I've checked the update. But we're pretty high up there on the list for Ghostbusters Give Back.
Yeah.
So I'm consistently impressed and proud to be a member of Ghostbusters Virginia.
Yeah.
And again, having done it for so long, there's definitely always a little bit of possession involved with something like that. Like there's
Hmm.
I have a piece of that inside me, but at the same time, when it comes to taking that back seat, I've got a really great mentality of it's their turn. You know what I
Right.
mean?
That's a
Let
good,
let
that's a
let
healthy
someone
way to
else
look
have
at
a
it.
chance.
Yeah. And I will say, I'll say this, Jamie, one thing that you have been mentioning, and I think just in the fact that other people are stepping in to do it, is I am consistently impressed with the level of just the high percentage of doers. And I've said this on the show before, but I mean, just going back to the fact that you made a feature length film with your friend just because I sat down, I made the script. We're going to do this. I'm
Oh
going to
yeah,
build this package. There's just a certain level of that that kind of bootstrap mentality where you just go ahead and you have to do it because especially with folks, from my generation, your generation, where there wasn't stuff readily there. And so if you wanted it, you had to create it yourself. And I think that mentality has carried itself over onto the charitable side as well. You get a little taste. It's like, well, we're going to go to a library. Great. And we're just going to build from there. We're going to do
hmm
another event. We're going to this time, let's pick a charity that we can put on our table and say we're going to donate some money over to wherever, Shriners or
mm.
Toys for Tots or any of these things um, that are a great way to do it. And people just are constantly impressing me, and in your group has earned a reputation that I think everyone in the community, they eventually hear your
Hopefully a
group
good one.
here in
Hold on now,
Virginia.
wait, are you setting me up?
No. I meant it in a good way. But we've got a couple minutes here, and we haven't gotten to report all ghosts yet,
Oh
which
my
is
goodness,
something that
nobody wants
I
to hear about
follow
that mess.
and enjoy. Could you touch base a little bit on the motivation to to start report all ghosts, and if anybody is not following it, what can they expect if they look it up on? I mean, you're everywhere. You're across all the major social media platforms with that. So can you touch base a little bit on that?
If you want me to tell people what to expect, they might not come
Yeah.
watch. Honestly, so Report All Ghost cropped up. It was sort of a long thing in the making, more or less, because I had actually started working with Ghost Corps in 2016 under my film production team moniker, White Tiger Film Studio, which helps make all of my like larger form Ghostbusters content in regards to like short films and stuff
Hmm.
like that. And we decided we got to do stuff in between when we're making movies, so we started doing unboxing videos. And one of the first major things we did was a Ghostbusters exclusive loot crate for 2016. And in that, we got to sort of I introduced myself to Eric Wright, who I've, of course, been talking to ever since. Who, of course, anyone who has had a chance to either listen to him talk on other podcasts or been lucky enough or fortunate enough to meet him in person know he's done so much for the Ghostbusters community. I remember he poured a ton of Ghostbusters creative assets on me to use for promotional purposes. And as a Ghostbusters nerd and just as a cinephile and film buff, I was like, wow, I have all of these things to play with. And they came from the source. So then of course I got really, really into that side more so when COVID hit, because Ghostbusters Virginia no one had anything going on. So to keep up with the social media side of things, I started doing unboxing videos and stuff like that. Taste tests, whatever you can think, I was like, let's check out this content creation thing.
Right.
But
you were one of the people doing the Ghostbusters 2 trading card bubble gum.
Right. Yeah. Let me, what does 30-year-old gum taste like? Just spits out chalk. But at some point in time, things did get back to normal, and Ghostbusters Virginia wanted to focus on the charitable side of things, which is absolutely, that's the idea, right? That's
right.
What they do. So I branched off, and then Report All Ghosts was created, because what it really stems from is a passion for Ghostbusters, right? The Ecto Cooler recipe. That's right. I've got an incredible Ecto Cooler recipe. I know everyone has their opinions and their favorites, but there's a really good one on the YouTube channel at Report All Ghosts if you want to check that out. But it all stems from passion for Ghostbusters, because I wrote and made a film back in 2009, and I've been wanting to do more film related projects since then. And as the world of, I guess, filming in general, like what people do with a camera, evolved, I have since evolved with it, but I still want to create Ghostbusters things and tell Ghostbusters stories. And that's what I do. Like, my goal and my motivation, I guess, is to just share that passion with the community. And when I'm not creating content, the charitable, you had asked beforehand if I wanted to keep Ghostbusters Virginia and Report All Ghosts their own entity, and they very much so are, because Ghostbusters Virginia has worked hard to stand on its own as a charitable organization, and excuse me, very much so. Report All Ghosts should do the same thing. So I've tried my best, and while I've been doing this as long as I have, Report All Ghosts is still in its infancy. I think we're a little over the 3-year mark now. I believe so. I don't even know when I started doing it. It's all blurry now. But I also want to stand on my 2 feet. So while things, I always like to say where it is now is a symbol of how far I've come, because it's been a wild ride, just being able to, because it's a daunting task, and you're doing the same thing right here tonight, to put yourself out there in front of people and use your voice and talk about the things that matter to you. But it's been a really pleasant experience being able to more vocally and directly be part of the community as a whole. And I'm incredibly appreciative for that, because again, having gone to events like Ghostbusters Day or even a couple of red carpet premieres, there's this screen between us right now, but it's a completely different experience when you get to talk to people who interact with your content, and you find out how you've connected and what that means to them. And that fuels my want to do it. And when I'm not doing the content creation side, it's also still important to me to remember the charitable stuff, because I've, been very fortunate to, talk and work behind the scenes in a very minor way with the Buffalo Ghostbusters, because what they do is an incredible feat. I can't even imagine. It's my understanding that from the time a GB day ends to the beginning of a new one,
it's another full-time job.
Like they get oh, absolutely. And so I commend them for that. But last year, particularly, I had the pleasure of writing on the evolution of Ghostbusters, much like what we're talking about now, but very
Mm-hmm.
small, for the whoyougonnacall.org newspaper. And so I was proud to be involved with that.
And that was
I,
such a cool little giveaway.
right. Yeah, absolutely. I've got, Ryan Espin is way too generous with those things. I'm starting to accumulate a small stack where I need to start pumping them back out into the community. If anyone watching tonight needs a whoyougonnacall.org newspaper, I will send it to you on the free because I wrote it. I don't need to read it anymore. And of course, I always love to try and help out whoyougonnacall.org when I
Mm-hmm.
can. The New York Ghostbusters, whenever they're doing their holiday drive, I did a little bit of graphic design for them this year. And
Great.
really, the most important part of all of it isn't how I can be involved, but how I can help boost the signal with
Sure.
anything that I do, because I'm not doing the work. I'm not out, like, I do my thing here at home, but you
Mm-hmm.
guys are out there putting your boots to the ground. And so what can I do to help more people know about it?
Right.
And that's also been a pleasure to be able to use my platform for. So
That's
I
great.
mean, I'm a part of the community, and I love being able to connect with you guys in any way possible.
And
So
that,
while up until this point it's been incredible, just like the Ghostbusters franchise as a whole, I'm excited to see where we can go together.
yeah. Well, that generosity of spirit that you have, I think, is something that is carried throughout the community, and it's great, and it's not surprising too. Jamie, with kind of your path as as a doer, you got to keep what's interesting and new, and you kind
That's
of
tough.
you've yeah, but you started things, you've done it, you're seeing it grow, and your brain just keeps kind of clicking, going, well, what else, what else, what else? But I appreciate everything that you've done, and I appreciate the work that you've put into it, and it's folks like you that you know have given the reputation of generosity. you know I don't know how I'm phrasing this poorly, but you know
You're doing great.
it
Keep it
can't
up.
be taken. People are going to easily take for granted the fact that Sony is doing something like Ghostbusters Give Back. If we're fortunate enough to get a second year or third year with that, and that line between corporate and our fan franchises is just gets a little bit more blurred, people aren't going to realize like that was a long time in the making in order
Mm.
for that trust to be built, where they know that these groups are out here, but they don't have to be afraid of them, and they're going to be able to, use it for some good PR too, and do some good on their own side. So I want to thank you for kind of being part of that early movement
Well,
with
there's a lot
everything.
of, like yourself, there's a lot of incredible Ghostbusters content creators out there who, they're doing the same thing I am. We're all kind of on the same spectrum and the same wheelhouse, right? What I hope I can do is just give everything back to the Ghostbusters community that they've given to me to put me in this duly noted
Yeah.
position, and then also just provide a little bit of flavor, right? Because there's a lot of cheeseburgers out there, but maybe today I'm feeling a Whopper.
Yeah, sure. A little flame broiled.
Right.
So well, Jamie, I can't thank you enough for the time you've given us tonight and sharing
Oh,
a
for
little bit of
sure.
your story. And I think we've only kind of scratched the surface with some of this. So if you don't mind, we might be tapping you on the shoulder at some point for a part two,
You're so
and we'll want to
mysterious.
make sure that we talk a little bit more. Maybe we'll focus a little bit more on some of uh, your film work, and
Oh, we
because
can we
I
can
think
talk
we can go
about
on for a while
anything.
there. But
Absolutely. Talk
so
about movies and toys and you name it.
absolutely, yeah. We will pick your brain again. But I really do want to thank you for the time that you've given us tonight and sharing your story. And if you just want to give a quick plug again, Report All Ghosts and Ghostbusters Virginia can be found. Report All Ghosts wherever you are in social media. You can find Report All Ghosts, and anything going on with Ghostbusters Virginia that you want to plug? I know it's early in the season, so there might not be anything imminent
It's very
hanging
early.
out
We
there. So
Ghostbusters Virginia has a few events that they're cooking up. One of the for several small local ones. One of the first big ones that I know a lot of divisions sort of throughout the US do is GalaxyCon.
Mhm.
We have one here in Richmond that's pretty massive. We're trying to get ourselves on the main floor this year. We'll see how that goes. And that being said, big shows are big fundraising events for us. So it
Mhm.
just means that we can give back that much more.
Yeah.
So, but Ghostbusters Virginia, one thing that's really cool is, they're officially linked up with the Make-A-Wish Foundation, but they find other things to give back to year round. Like in the spring, I think we've got a pet drive that people can look out for.
Mhm.
We've got some really cool custom patches and stickers for that event that I think are coming
Love
back
those.
this year. Because pets, they need toys too, and food and all sorts of stuff. Shelters, people don't realize it. Shelters are in a big need. Proton Pets this April. See, Jeff is backing me up on that. Check out, that's a kind of a tip for other franchises. Check with your
Sure.
local veterinary clinics or pounds or whatever.
Yeah,
They
Windy
need
City did our first promotion with a pet charity this past year. So
right, yeah.
they're great. They're great. So
So
exciting stuff. And yeah, as the spring gets going, so do the events. So it'll start to get busy. But Jamie, you and Jeff and the whole team, always don't hesitate to reach out if we can help. Spread the word on something you're doing, and make sure that we can share different ways for people to help. Reach out, even if it's just giving you a quick plug. Hop on for a couple minutes at the start of a show. We're always happy to have you guys out. So thank you so much for your time
absolutely.
and everything that you've done over the years. It's been a pleasure on my part as somebody that's known you kind of from afar and known your work probably longer than I've known you. So, or known of you personally, but want to thank you very much for your time.
For sure. Thanks for having me. I'm glad I left my stamp. Looking forward to crashing a party in the future. Whenever you guys want to have me out, let's do it.
And you know what, we are overdue for something like that, and I will get in touch with you if I make it out to New York. Make sure that we're able
You're
to.
going to New York. I already told you I'm dragging you out to New York. If it takes more than one of us, I've got people. Patrick, I've got people. We're gonna get you there.
You know what?
How tall are you?
I'm 6 feet tall, 250. So
That's a big boy.
well, down 50 pounds this year. I'm pretty happy with that.
Still suitcases
but-
out, but I'm proud of you.
Yeah, thank you. 50-gallon barrel will still do the trick. I
That'll
think. So,
suffice.
yeah.
Plus a proton pack and jumpsuit. We'll see.
Oh, well, yeah, we'll see. But all right, man, I appreciate it. I'm really looking forward to meeting you in person one of these days. And I do want to thank everybody that joined us for the comments, the questions. It's always a pleasure, and I want to thank everybody for your time. And please catch this on YouTube, Instagram, Twitch, Twitter, Spotify, Apple, wherever you find your podcasts. You're going to find Why We Bust. Like, subscribe. We appreciate the support, and we will see everybody in a couple weeks. Take care. Bye-bye.